All right, it is that time of the month, Mayday Monday, first Monday of the month. We're back with you with a Mayday topic. This month, I've got, it's been a couple months since we've been on here. So this month I have a good episode with a friend, a longtime friend, Mike Ciampo. Some of you might know him from the FDNY. He's going to touch a little bit on a close call that he had. What was that, last year?
No, it was a couple of years ago, Tony. We're
All
going
right,
back
so a
still.
couple years ago, we had a close call, and we, had a conversation recently. And he's like, "Hey, let's talk about this." So, real quick, if you bring the slides up, Mark, for all of you guys that when you tune into Mayday Mondays and we get this, we like to kind of highlight the town that these incidents happened in. This one happened, of course, in New York City, and just to review, 8 million people, 8 million people. You got the five boroughs there. Queens and Brooklyn are 2 million people each, 2.5 in Brooklyn. Manhattan 1.6, Bronx 1.4, and Staten Island lagging behind there with half a million. Is that pretty accurate, Mike, or is it a lot of people moved out of the city?
COVID's over. People are coming back in. You just never know who's in, who's out. It's just fluctuating. We have, a lot of people are being shipped up here to New York, so the numbers could be even higher than that right now. I'm not even positive, to be honest with you.
One thing I like to keep in mind is that density, right? We all know, hey, I live in a town, I live in a city. But if you look at New York City, it's 302 square miles, and there's 8.3 million people. That equals 27,000 people per square mile. My town, my county now, I'm in 511 square miles, and we have about 78 people per square mile. So quite a difference, and maybe again helps you kind of put that in perspective from your town to New York City. FDNY been around for a long time. Wasn't your dad? Did he run the shops?
Yes, I'm very fortunate. I grew up in the shops, and that was my taste of the FDNY. And my dad actually met all the old timers from Rescue too. They were all Marines about similar times or a couple of years apart. And in 1975 or six, somewhere in there, that was one of my presents to go ride Rescue too. And I think we did 8 fires that night. I slept through a couple, being 14 years old, and I fell in love with the fire department. I never saw my mom hit my dad, but when we got home and she's like, "What'd you think?" I said, "I wanted to be a New York fireman," and she smacked my dad in the shoulder and said, "What did you do to him?" So that was my first taste.
So still 11,000 firefighters, 4,200 EMS, a bunch of civilian employees. They're divided into 9 divisions with 53 battalions, 254 facilities, right? And that includes almost 200 engines, 150 ladder trucks, 8 squads, 5 rescues, and then assorted other equipment, right? Hazmat, wildland, marine, wildland. You got wildland units in New York City?
Believe it or not, we do have brush fire units. There's areas in the city that have marshes, even around the JFK airport. Staten Island has huge, giant marshes, and there's some trash dumps out there. But even in the Bronx, there's some big parks, and we have brush fire units. And lo and behold, too, when you're laughing at that, I was recently teaching for the FDNY with our mobile forcible entry team, and I went out to the far Rockaways, and I didn't even know we had beach pickup truck fire trucks with surfboards on them. So we go from ocean to brush fire to inner city.
Yeah. Is that like a goal to retire out to the surfboard fire station?
There, some of those areas have been quite busy out there. Coney Island, Far Rockaway, and they still catch work out there too.
Here's a picture of some of the guys. Again, I don't have enough slides to get all 11,000 firefighters and 4,200 other or 6,000 other assorted people, but pretty proud department with a lot of stuff going on. Right? Here's your place there. You spent like 20 years there.
Yeah, I've been actually one of the guys told me the other day, Lay Lou, I think you're the longest running officer. in 45 truck history. Just I don't want to go back on something. Tony, you mentioned we were friends for a real long time, and I know our friends down in DC would be upset if I didn't mention it, but I started in a small volunteer fire department in Jersey, fourth generation volunteer, and I went to a wonderful city. I did 5 years in Washington, D.C., a year in Northwest at Truck Free, and 4 years at Squad Free over in Southeast. I came back to the South Bronx, and I ended up getting promoted out of a little truck called 44 Truck, and I landed in a great spot up in 45 Truck in Washington Heights. It's right above Harlem. It's actually where the GW Bridge comes right into the city.
44. That's the Yankees. The first due to the Yankee Stadium.
No, 49 Trucks first due to the stadium down there. We're just what's nice about 44 Truck was we were surrounded by rear mounts. So when they needed a tower ladder, we were getting called in because we had rear mount aerials all around us.
Yeah, that's interesting. That I know talking to, I think it was Joel when Kanaski was there, and he was like, "Yeah, we're not at that fire because they don't need a tower ladder."
Yeah.
What do you mean? No, whatever. Good for you. You have so many different selections. You can pick and choose. So let's get into your incident from a couple of years ago. 260 Audubon Avenue. This was a first new fire.
Yes, sir. It was a crazy morning. I came in real early in the morning. I did a mutual exchange of duty for another lieutenant, and I relieved them real early. Unfortunately, I had a death in the family and had to get out and travel to a place. So I relieved them real early in the morning, and while in the locker room, as soon as you walked in the firehouse, I could open the door. You smell they went to a job, and he said to me, "Hey, we had a good job last night. It was an arson fire up on 260 Audubon. A guy beat up his mother. He broke the door. He took the door handle off with a hammer, and then he lit the place off in two rooms. He threw everything and get by there today, drill on it, go over there." I said, "All right, terrific." And he jumped in the shower. I put my uniform on, and we had about 4 or 5 runs in a row. I was making a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese on a bagel for breakfast. And the big joke is I only ate half of it, and we had like 5 runs in a row. So we picked up this run on the air when they asked me if we were available, taking up from another run.
So you got sent there. This is the fire was last night.
No, the fire was the night before, and so now we were getting a run to this building, but it was different this time. It was coming in as an electrical fire. So we were taken up from another box about 15 blocks up the street, and the dispatcher let us know, "Hey, we're getting reports of an electrical fire." So my chauffeur and I were talking, and I said, maybe leftover water last night. And the dispatcher's voice sounded a little bit different than your regular electrical fire in an apartment. I mean, how many times have you been, Tony, to the outlet sparking? Somebody pulled the extension cord out of an outlet. There was water dripping in there, right? It's sizzling. Shut the breaker off, unscrew it, but for some
Not a
reason,
lot of excitement.
the tone of voice of the dispatcher just said something to me. As an officer, when you're in that front seat, even when you're a chief, can you pick up the tone of the dispatcher's voice and know something's not
Yeah.
right?
You can tell it's off. Yep.
So anyway, as we're coming down the block for this thing. We're not flying. It's an electrical fire. It's not fire on the 15th floor or something. And we all know the building, 32-story, scissor stairs. It's almost, you can't see it here, but it's almost T-shaped inside. The scissor stairs are across some 3 elevator banks. So when you come out of them, you just turn right and look left and right. So it's a big T, and we all know it. And as I'm getting in there, and the dispatcher's like, 45, be advised, we're getting reports of no elevators in the building. They're having power problems. We're starting to get a couple calls, fire on the 7th and 8th floor. So I turned around to the crew and I said, "Hey, forget the water can. Let's bring the dry chems." I'm thinking he's telling me the elevators are out. I'm thinking maybe the elevator motor's on fire, right? And 32-story building, it's not uncommon. So, we got off the rig, and the first call was for the 7th floor. So we're going to walk 7.
Was this what time of day? You say you came in early, so and you had 5 runs, so
Yeah, this is probably about 20 to 9 in the morning, 8:30, 29, somewhere in there, 8:45. Put it this way, I only ate half my sandwich and I was hungry. You know what I'm saying?
but
So
you go to this place a lot, right?
it's a common run for us, more EMS runs there, but these are very unusual buildings. They were built years ago when Route 95, the George Washington Bridge, would actually dump into Washington Heights. And when they realized the traffic was getting so big, they took all the buildings out of the way. They put 95 right through the upper Manhattan here. And these buildings are built over the highway. When you come in on the GW, you go underneath a tunnel, and these 32-story buildings are above you, 4 of them. So, they're very, compactor fires here and there. We'll get a room or two here and there. We're big for balcony fires. They look spectacular. When you pull up, it's blowing out the whole balcony. You get up there and you're walking through the apartment and the whole balcony's on fire. So we're familiar with the property.
So, chock full of people?
Yes, yeah. It's actually they're trying to rehab a lot of the apartments. So we have anything from hoarding conditions to a brand new open concept apartment. That's one thing I will say. Yourself as a officer, every now and then, hey, let's check the floor below. And a couple times it's bit me in the tail here because you stop downstairs and all of a sudden you open the door and it's an open concept and you get upstairs and it's a totally different layout.
So it's not like a total reno.
No,
It's
not so. Here and there, they're just popping new apartments in when they can. So
what
Washington
did you
Heights.
get what did you get on this? Like 3 engines and 2 trucks, or was it
Yeah,
just
due to the occupancy and electrical fire, most of our runs are 2 and 2. But if we run the engines run down a firefighter, not full staff, so we call it 10-14 instead of hitting 10-4. So that puts instead of 2 and 2, we'll get the third engine because we're short of staff. I know for other firefighters listening, you must say, "What? 2 and
Yeah.
2, and now you're getting a third engine?" Well, I'm in a predominantly 5 to 6-story tenement area, and it's a lot of firefighters to stretch hose to the top floor.
Yeah, no, I think, we can appreciate, more people's better, and even with you guys being down 1, it affects how you operate, right?
Surely does.
So you pull in here, what was the conditions when you got, to the 1st floor or main entrance?
Yeah, so the chief beat us in because, like I said, we were taken up from another box, and so as I was getting out, the dispatcher let me know, one more time that they had reports of no power on a bunch of floors, and now they were getting 8 and 9. So I let the chief know, hey, when a second due truck comes in, we'll alternate floors on our way up the stairs. We got to work together because we're getting multiple phone calls. I know he said to me, "Oh, they just called me. There's people trapped in the elevator too." So with that, I turned to my OV who was looking at me. I say, "Hey, bring the elevator tools. If we have people trapped in the elevators on these floors and we do have a job, it's a smoke flue. We got to get them out." So he took care of that assignment. Poor guy had to walk 32 floors to check every floor. But
Yeah, yeah.
that happens in this job. But so we made our way into the building, no power. People were starting to come out like flies. I'm like, this isn't good. The stairs are scissor stairs. So they were, when I say scissor stairs, right, we mean they go up, opposite, and then I go this way and this one goes that way. So we were starting to run into a lot of people, but about the 4th floor, we ran into people coming down with towels over their face, pulled their shirts pulled up, and the burning sensation in your throat. You could taste like almost, like that PVC burning plastic and wires and cables. You've
Yeah,
experienced that taste in your mouth before.
yeah.
And I looked at the guys and I said, "Hey, you can just taste it burning." And right then I said, "Let's mask up." Even though we didn't see any smoke, I'm like, "Let's go on air." And I know we had to go to 7, but on the way up, we were, when I say splitting guys, one firefighter would duck in as we went past the 4th floor. The last guy on line opened the 4th floor door. went to the T, make sure we had no smoke on that floor. I didn't want to pass it when you get a report of a fire on 7. Well, was it below it? You
Yeah.
know, especially with the smoke, and now it was getting heavier on our way up. And um, then we had heard one of the engine companies call and give the signal for a working fire,
Wow.
and he said he was on the 8th floor, and the chief's like, "Hey, I got a report of the 9th floor too." So when we got up to the 8th floor, we came out of the scissor stairs, and to be honest with you, we didn't have our hoods up because we're just on air in the stairwell, and my chauffeur, actually, I'm sorry, my irons firefighter grabbed me and just, "Hey, Lou, there's purple and green flames coming out of the hallway." It was about, smoke was about 5 feet down in the hallway. You could crouch under it and have good visibility, but it was black, and it was purple and green flashes coming out in the flames. And right then I knew it was, definitely electrical. I didn't knew they didn't have gas lines in here from building inspection, but in the particular closets that it was in. So we made our way down the hallway to the fire location.
On the 8th floor.
Yes, sir. We're on the 8th floor, and so it's very funny, Tony. I'm sure in your career, when we talk about close calls, Maydays, in the back of your mind, we talk about them, we drill on them. You don't think things are going to pop into your mind, and they do. If you're adamant about being a good boss, a good firefighter, you'll listen to the stories. You'll read about them. And as we went down the hallway, we pulled our hoods up, helmets on. I grabbed my can firefighter and I said, "Listen, do not stand in front of the door. Use the wall as a partition." Okay. I I ducked around the corner with the camera just around the door frame, got a read. Flames were burning. I could see it was the electrical box. And we had reports of people trapped on now 8 and 9. I'm like, man, we got to try to knock this down. So we had brought the dry chem. The can firefighter gave it 3 short blasts. He held his hand up with the nozzle around the door frame to protect himself. And we waited about 30 seconds and we gave it another 3 quick blasts. Maybe I'll just give you a little history. Years ago, up in the 19th Battalion in the Bronx, when I was a fireman in the Bronx, it wasn't in my battalion, but I was working, and the chief went to the job. And what happened was the officers were down in the basement checking electrical condition and fire, and they actually went to pull the power box knife switch down to shut the power off, and the CO in the power box exploded,
Wow.
and it blew them back. One, actually, the officer's tool hit him in the head, and he had to have a plate put in his head. And they were the percussion in the room slammed the door shut, and they weren't all in the room. Luckily, the irons firefighter was outside and had to force the door to get into the officers that were trapped in this room. So, when I saw this electrical closet on fire, that previous fire rang a bell in my mind, and that's why I wouldn't let one of my firefighters stand in front of that door.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. So you gave it the 3 short blasts, another 3 short blasts. Was there any
fires
relief?
fires out. So
But
I gave a ladder 4-5 to 1-3. That's the battalion. Go ahead, Mike. Chief, we had electrical fire on 8. We have it knocked down. We need Con Edison forthwith. And at that time, I heard 93 charging their line for the floor above. And, I said to my irons guy, I said, I hope he's not going to use water on that. He heard I use dry chem, So the fire is going better on 9. And, we made our way up to the 9th floor. This is where it gets a little bit, when I say tricky. I ducked under. We got up to the 9th floor, and the 2.5 was coming out of the stairwell in a big loop. So I had to duck under it. My 2 guys realized that the one guy trying to flake the line out couldn't flake the line out. So they stopped for a minute to flake the line. I ducked through the line, got down the hallway, and I told the nozzle and the officer, "Don't open that line. I got a dry chem coming." And I just picked up the can. Now, again, the smoke was a little heavier on this floor. It's banking down. But but I could see the purple, green, white coming out of the room. And I'm like, all right, no problem. We did 8th floor. We're going to do the 9th floor. And so I knelt down and I just sort of ducked around the corner with the camera. And my irons team was again down the hallway. And all of a sudden, there was an explosion. And it lifted me up off the floor. I hit my head against the concrete ceiling. A lightning bolt went over my shoulder as it threw me up into the wall. I lost my vision. It was like being flash burned, like welding. I mean, this thing. And I came down on the officer's tool. I landed. I felt like I got hit in football in the ribs. You lose your breath. And my air and my mask, you could taste the warm air coming out of the regulator as it threw me. We went down. I felt the nozzle firefighter on my legs. I said, come on, let's go, follow me. I looked down the hallway, and it was probably burning, the whole hallway, probably only 2 feet off the floor. So I told them, let's go, follow me, let's go. And they're like, got it. They're like, oh, all right. So I take off, and now I'm worried about, I didn't give a mayday yet. I'm all spotty from the flash burns in my eyes. I knew I was injured. I could just feel, my skin burning and, through my hood and everything else. And the air was still a little warm coming through your regulator. And I knew like the layout. I've been in this building 100 times, so I knew going back 30 feet and I was going to take the other scissor stair, the closest one, and jump through the door. And when I jumped through, another engine company was coming up the roll-ups, and they said I was steaming, and I came in, and I'm ripping my mask off, and I'm like, they're like, what happened? I go, we just heard a boom. I go, yeah, we just got blown up. I said, where are the guys behind me? And when they opened the door, nobody's behind me. So that's when I knew I had to give the mayday.
We're on the 9th floor.
Yep, we're in the 9th floor now.
And the same closet was above the one on the 8th floor?
Yes, sir. They run the whole 32-story closet, as you could see. The far picture on the right is actually the electrical box that was on fire. The picture all the way on the left is the wall that blew out into the apartment, and that's the bricks and the wall laying in the middle picture, laying in the floor. But basically, we can talk about that in a minute. But one thing I'd like to say about the Mayday is you're only as good as your training. And our job did a Mayday study after this. One of my lieutenants was involved with it, so that's how I know about it. But I studied for 2 years with 4 other firefighters for lieutenant's exam. And at that time, old school, we didn't have radios with Mayday buttons, emergency alert on it. And we were trained, you key that mic, Mayday, 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 and you give your ladder 4 or 5, right? And boom, you say your Mayday, right? And I did it twice, ladder 4 or 5, or Mayday, 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 ladder 4 or 5. We had an explosion on the 9th floor. I have members injured and members missing because now the guys didn't follow me back to the stairwell. So I gave it a second time, and then I was masking up to go back out, and the engine grabbed me. They said I was steaming yet. My helmet was a little burnt. My skin was hanging off my ears a little bit and both sides of my face. And they're like, you ain't going anywhere. I go, yes, I am. And it took, 2 guys to hold you down. You know how your adrenaline's going. So what I'm trying to say here about the Mayday is, and where I'm going to throw a lesson learned at you early in this, I feel at fault that I didn't practice enough when we got the new radios of pressing that button. I'm like, you know what? I'm a seasoned boss. I'm going to be calm, but your adrenaline takes over. And when you're in an explosion like this, I couldn't see straight, number one, yet. Everything was blurry, even the guys talking to me from the flash burns. You're burnt, you're in shock. Now I'm missing firefighters. But what I would do is, definitely go to a different channel in your firehouse, tell the chief, tell the guys, hey, we're switching over to channel 4. And we're going to practice Maydays and go around the table and just have each guy with their fire glove try to hit that button or try to find it down with their antenna, which is difficult to do. But you have to practice it because it's going to be muscle memory. My Mayday, 2 people told me, wow, that was like textbook, because that's the way I trained, that's the way I studied. But I should have hit the damn button to make the wattage go up on the radios.
That's a great tip. That coming from the seasoned veteran, that your Mayday call was good, but you didn't give yourself the best chance, right? You give yourself the best chance with the new radios and all that technology, and being the seasoned guy, you're like, oh, I'll be fine. So even the seasoned guys need to practice these things. I've had guys tell me we're doing Mayday stuff with technicians, right? 30-year technicians. He doesn't need to do that. No, absolutely. Everybody needs to do that, right? And whether it's new technology or old technology, it's all about muscle memory, and you need to ingrain that. Now that's perfect. And so let's follow up with the missing members. Or did they go down to a different? Did they go to a different way in the hallway?
So when they were taking a loop out of the hose and just getting this big loop and the kink, well, I don't want to say it was kink, but it was just bunched up. They knew there was no way back to the stairwell. So they got to the T and they were making a left-hand turn to come towards me with the extinguisher, and the place blew up and the fireball just came down at them. So they jumped in the other stairwell. Unbeknownst to me, the engine boss got blown down the hallway a couple feet the other way. So when I hit the nozzleman and say, let's go, follow me, I always feel guilty. Like, you hear guys in Vietnam threw their partner over their shoulder under fire and carrying them. And I always feel guilty. Like I left them. Like, I talked to a bunch of seasoned vets and officers. I spoke to some other people. I was having a tough time after this fire. Like I left somebody behind. They're like, listen, you hit him. He said, yeah. And I thought he was coming with me. When I got to the stairwell, and turned out the nozzle firefighter turned around to get the boss. My 2 guys said that was Champ giving a Mayday. They didn't know I made it to the stairwell, so they took off after me to fire. And when they got down there, the one guy gave it 3 blasts, and they found the officer and nozzle firefighter. They were okay, but they were sort of blown down the other way, and they brought them back to the stairwell. So, a big, just a finale on this. When we look at the pictures, speaking to a bunch of electrical experts and this and that, as firefighters, sometimes we're looking for flames. We saw the color, the difference. The biggest thing here is in the one picture to the left, I can't tell if you can see the back of the box. The picture on the right, the box is taken apart, but the picture on the left, it has a flap. They believe that with the arcing and the fire in here, what happened with all the PVC, all the CO, they believe there was the CO, which has flammability range that's so wide, like 14% to 84%, that it blew up in that box. And then it also blew forward with the explosion. And I know in the video we'll watch, we'll see exactly the force of this thing. And I'll show you where I was almost kneeling. Thank God I was low and a little bit to the side. But it was more of a CO buildup, that it was like a giant pipe bomb.
Mark, can you play that tape?
It looks like they recreated it.
Microphone there, Mike.
Yeah, so that's the wall pieces that got blown out. Now, I wasn't on this side. If you look down at the floor when it turns the camera, that's where I was kneeling, right where that guy's feet are.
Out in the hallway?
Out in the hallway. And that's what the devastation it did in that apartment. We're very fortunate that the homeowner in that apartment has a wheelchair-bound resident with them, and they left as immediately as they heard the sparking and popping. So, the guys got in there after with a wheelchair, and they were looking for this victim. And, like you said, there's a mini collapse in the apartment. They were concerned when you hear that over the radio, somebody pinned, but nobody was pinned. So luckily, I think 4 of us went to the hospital, to the burn center. Unfortunately, one firefighter had severe. He came out of the stairwell right when the explosion happened, and the fireball just got him, and he put his hands up and got burned severely on his hands. But One other thing, I know we're talking Mayday and we could talk all day, Tony. You guys have an excellent burn center there at the Washington Hospital Center. We have an excellent one here at the New York City Firefighter Burn Center, Cornell. And John didn't need any skin grafts. I'm sorry I used his name, but I think he'd be happy. I had never heard this. They covered his hands in Vaseline and they put him in these new charcoal mitts that were like NASA's trying, and he never needed skin grafts or anything, and his hands healed, and he was burned severe second-degree burns, entire hand. So
On this fire here?
From this fire here, yeah. One of the other guys got burned. Mine was just my ears and both sides of my. They believe, like the safety chief's like, Mike, you had your hood on. I go, Chief, you could ask my irons guy. When we saw those color flames, he said, Champ, put your hood on. And but they believe the percussion when it hit me, it was such force to lift me. They believe my hood, even around the seal, a force, like figure like a 50-mile-an-hour wind blowing at you, and it might have took my hood off my face just from the force, and that's how I got burned on the ears and the cheeks.
All right, we'll wrap this up here. Some lessons learned, some really good lessons learned. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that like to read Mike Ciampo's stuff. He's got books, but he just gave you a little tidbit there of knowledge from his own personal experience of practice. Practice that stuff when you can. And the Mayday calling, just sit around the table. He even said, right, sit around the table, get your firefighting gloves, and change the channel and go through the steps. Include that button. I know where I came from. We never hit the button because right, it was going to mess up something at communications. You guys remember we talked to firefighters from Frederick, Maryland, and if you remember that incident where there was 17 or 18 different mic clicks. Well, one of the things they didn't do was he didn't press that button and get that radio priority. Mike, again, it didn't influence the Mayday call was perfect, but if he had pressed the button, he would get that radio priority. He would get that additional wattage to get the message out.
Tony, I think you make a great point right there, and to capitalize on that, we're in a class 1 building here, solid concrete. Now, if I was down below in the basement or something, that wattage wouldn't maybe have picked up. The chiefs in the street might not have heard that Mayday. Luckily, I was on an upper floor, in the center core maybe. But again, if you're in those concrete bunker type of buildings, that extra wattage is going to help that Mayday transmission.
And it might be too much for you to even think about. Am I in this kind of building? So just do it every time, right?
Exactly.
Get in the habit of practicing and making it a part of your Mayday call. So good stuff, Mike. Will you bring the slides back up again, Mark? So I want to change gears here real quick. We're probably going to address the elephant in the room. Some things. If you know Mike, he's a little more raspy. If you know me, if you come to Mayday Mondays, I have a little lisp. If you look, you can see my jaw's all swollen here, missing some teeth. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. And it kind of goes back to, I wanted to tie the Mayday Mondays into that. And you guys know that have been part of this since we've been doing this Mayday Mondays, that it's really been about, if you will, surviving the fireground, right? And I wanted to focus on those things where going into a burning building would impact you, whether it is a collapse, whether it is you getting tangled up in some wires, and how can you negotiate that, whether it is being really, really familiar with your SCBA so that it's second nature and you're really good at using your SCBA. Whether it's calling Maydays like Mike's talking about, and making it a muscle memory so that when you do have a trouble, you're not wasting time and you're getting your message out. So all those things were really big in Mayday Mondays. Really, again, on the fireground stuff. Well, as we continue to go on and we continue to grow and we meet people, well, things touch us and get closer. So over the years, we had a really good friend. Mike knew Kevin McRae from DC Fire Department, and he had a heart attack. So how can you not address heart attacks, right? Again, Mayday Mondays was really about the the hands-on thing, right? But so many of our line of duty deaths, and not even line of duty deaths, but close calls, right? We know that there's like 3 to 1 close call heart issues to every line of duty death that's out there. So it might even be 25 to 1, right? 25 to 1 for every line of duty death. There's a cardiac issue out there. So we had to really address that. And then if you remember, we talked to friends from Brad Clark, a neighboring fire department down here in Virginia. Brad was killed on the highway. So we started to bring in, we added that kind of stuff to our Mayday Monday, to the survival campaign. Well, there's another one that is really, really, really kind of hitting us in the face, and I can't not talk about it. And that wasn't meant to be hitting me in the face when I look at my face, but it really that's part of it. Earlier this 2 months ago or so, back in March, I felt something was wrong and went to see my doctor, and sure enough, um, I was found there was a tumor in the floor of my mouth, which has now then spread to my gum line. Um, and it was cancer. It was about 4 centimeters of tumor size inside that was cut out. We're on the mend, and it's another reason why we have Mike here, right? Because I know Mike has been impacted with cancer as well, and I reached out to him earlier this month and said, "Hey, man, I want you to come on." And he, it was funny because I couldn't get a word in edgewise. Again, if you know Mike, he likes to talk, and I'm so thankful that he's getting treatment and it's getting better because. Um, he took over the phone call, and next thing I know, I'm like, "Hey, Mike, can you come on the podcast? Oh, and by the way, it's impacted me as well." So I don't think that we can not talk about it anymore. It needs to be front and center. And as much as I thought I lived my life in the fire department like it wasn't going to catch me. I was going to be able to stay out in front of it, right? Yeah, I mean those things they're not going to affect me, but um, I don't know what else to say, but um, there was some action, some steps that I took that definitely influenced this, I believe. And if I could, have that time back, I don't think it would make me a different, less aggressive guy, but definitely some things that I could do different. So that's what we want to talk about now, and we're going to try and give you some action steps, some talk about some real real steps you can take to reduce your exposure, because that's really ultimately what we're going to try and do. So before we get too far, can you tell me about this mask here, Mike? Mark, can you?
Yeah, well, the reason I dominated the phone call is, as any brother would do, when you realize that you have cancer and you're talking to somebody else. The nurse told me the first day I got diagnosed, was like, "You're a firefighter, huh? Oh, my cousin's a fireman. You guys are pretty tight." She goes, "You just joined a new society, the Cancer Society." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Oh, you'll know." And as soon as you reached out to me and we got talking, my mind was, let me set Tony at ease. It's an ugly, terrible road, and I won't lie to you. And I told him, you want me to be up front, and you were like, yeah. So, the conversations we had, so far, and I'll be checking on you, is about what I'm so used to wearing an SCBA for 38 years, but I guess I didn't wear it enough. Tony, we years ago in the 80s, vacant buildings in Southeast DC, right? You didn't need your mask. It's just a vacant building, right? It's garbage burning in here, this and that. But you know, add 38 years on the job, the ugly food on the stove, the car fire. Oh, you just got that plastic taste in your mouth. Of course, I had the Trade Center in 93, the Trade Center in 2001. So, you know, 38 years of taking a little extra snot and feed. I wanted to be that salty fireman with the gray hair like you. I thought I'd be that 38 years. It didn't get me, bro. I work out. I'm in good shape, and it bites you in the ass. So that mask is the mask you don't want to wear. That's the radiation mask. You get strapped down on the table. There's little black buttons there. You lay down on a glass table. They put a sheet down. One thing I will tell all the firefighters is the people in the hospitals, they don't have our sense of humor. And so be careful. I don't know, Tony, I laid down the first day of radiation and I said to the girl, I go, wow, now I know what my autopsy is going to feel like. And she's like, what? And I go, I'm joking, like I thought she might laugh. She didn't laugh at all, but you're on this, glass table. They put those buttons in. And the one thing you don't see is they give you a big fat tongue depressor with a big wad of gauze on there that you have to put your tongue up to your teeth, and they jam that in your mouth. And then they walk out of the room and it slides up under this giant magnet and an octopus around you. And they close the 18-inch vault door. The walls, I think, are 24-inch concrete, and you're in there by yourself. And hopefully they put the music on. But again, that's the mask you wore for anywhere from 10 to 12, 18 minutes, 15 minutes. They slowly build it up. And, having that 33 days in a row, you need a trip to the burn center afterwards because you're roasted on your neck. It's second-degree burns. If you have, I'm lucky I have the Italian skin. I'm used to getting tan. I don't know how you're going to fare with the little Irish skin over there, but, I needed a trip to the burn center. What they don't tell you is they're burning the inside of your mouth. So your saliva glands, you lose your taste buds. You can't eat for 3 weeks after. IVs, maybe a feeding tube down the nose if they want to do that. But, it's not a fun ride. If you could wear the other mask, the more, even overall, leave it on. If you're shot, hey, Lou, we need another cap. We need another truck in here. We got to stay on air a little bit longer with today's chemicals.
Yeah, I definitely. That definitely was when I was in the hospital from this. There was some times where I was really reconsidering this. Right, like, this isn't what I bargained for, and if again we can what if we can sit and lament. Right, we had great careers, and they were awesome, fun times. But there's just a few things that wouldn't have cut down on the fun. Right, we were talking today. We did a safety stand down in my department here about a lot of things, and one of them is cancer. And I will tell you that I loved the ode of row house. Right, I love the smell of a good row house fire, and I remember how it would, how you wear these watches and they're rubber, and that smell would seep into that thing, and you could sit there for days and just get a whiff and go, oh man, that was great, right? And like you mentioned earlier, like you go into the firehouse, open the doors, you're like, oh, they had a job last night, and you're just, this is awesome. Then I think about the the choice to wear my bunker gear all day. I wore my turnout pants all day long, right? Because it's just I didn't have the speed. I wasn't as fast as some of the other guys getting stuff dressed. Plus, I could just leave them on, step right into the cab, put my coat on, right? One less thing I got to do. And did that impact it? I don't know, right? But it definitely, if I didn't do that, it wouldn't have made me any less of a firefighter that I was. It may have helped out. So definitely some things that we can do, right? We can pass this on. And I think about all the people that I know. Remember Jim Seavey?
Sure, Jimmy was a sweetheart.
And 53 years old, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and some other people. We all have some people like this. I'm sure all of you guys listening to this know somebody who's been touched by this stuff. And there's things you can do, and that's kind of what I want to touch on today. We bring the slides back up. What are some things that we can do right at the fire? There's some things you can do before the fire. You can, set your firehouse up so it's nice and clean. Keep all your dirty stuff away from your living quarters. Don't take bunker gear to bed with you anymore. Right? Keep that stuff in the apparatus bay and away from where you're living, away from the kitchen especially. But at the fire, are you planning on going inside that building, or are you planning on getting on that building? wear your mask.
You know, Tony, the FDNY, I just myself and a couple other firefighters were interviewed, as well as chiefs, the presidents of the unions. Our chief now really want to push cancer reduction. He was tired of going to uh, funerals. But one of the things we're looking at, even as our job so big, was when you're saying at the fire, we want to try to institute the engine companies fog vent for a longer period of time when everybody has their mask on after you knock the fire down. Like we all know, you put your mask off. What can you see anyway? Right? It's all white and gray yet. Like leave your mask on, let the engine fog vent longer. We're a vertical city. They're looking into the cordless fans, the battery operated fans, and running them up to the upper floors and getting them in the public hallways and trying to, with the fog vent, and blow fresh air in there. We're trying to see if that's going to do better things for us. You know, we're bigger than DC. I know we have plenty of manpower staffing in DC. They're looking at special calling an additional truck for the overhaul, so that you would come in with your mask on. You know, I know the first two trucks aren't going to like that. Hey, it's our fire. We're going to open up. Yeah, you can open up a little, but get out of here. You know, you did your job. Like, get out, bring a new company in, fresh bottles, and let them pull. You know, maybe, you know, there's old asbestos in these buildings. So there's different initiatives we're looking at during the fire, at the fire scene too.
And I know there's been a big debate over the years. Is like, when do I take it off? Do I take it off at 50 parts per million CO? Do I how much how much cyanide is in the atmosphere? Really, just leave it on, right? If you're going to be in that building, have a mask on, and then take it off when you leave. Again, like you said, it's gonna add some time. It's gonna require you to maybe change a bottle, like the old ones where you went through half a bottle. Now you might go through the whole thing, but it's gonna help reduce that exposure. One thing we can't do is we can't reduce the exposure while you're inside fighting the fire, right? Like when you mask up and then you go inside to fight the fire, that's the exposure. That one way we can reduce it is put the fire out faster, right? That's one way we can. But that exposure is going to be tough. Wear your gear, make sure the gear is clean, keep it buttoned up. But we can now reduce the exposure once that's over.
Exactly. We're also looking into, I forgot the one thing, I just had a glance at my notes here. You know, we were a SOC support truck, and we have the canister mask, like for a PAPR, for decon, and this and that. They're looking to also, you know, you take your pack off, have your face piece on. Maybe, you know, are we going to go through a lot of them? Yeah, but if we're going to save lives and, you know, cut down on cancer rates, maybe wearing a filter that screws into your SCBA mask might work too, you know. So.
Another step while you're at that fire is used to be called decon. Now they're trying to promote this term, preliminary exposure reduction. And really what that is, it's so the frame of mind would say, this is just preliminary exposure reduction. This is not final, right? Because you're going to come out and you're going to hose people off, but then you're going to also take that gear back and send it out to get clean. And that's when it's clean. That's when it's decontaminated, is when it goes and gets washed and gets inspected, and then that's when it's clean. It's not clean when you come out and get the hose off. Yes, it helps with the exposure reduction when you take it off and you go back to the firehouse, but it's not clean. One of the things, I don't know if you guys are looking at it, but the preliminary exposure reduction kit, right? A bucket with some soap, a soft bristle brush, a hard bristle brush, a hose, and a nozzle, right? Something set aside on a garden hose with a shower kind of head that you can use for that. And a lot of companies are definitely doing that. I see a lot of departments are pushing videos for this stuff out there. We're looking at getting some per kits that we can add to our inventories.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing. I've seen actually some neat plumbing fixtures off engines too. You know, I don't know if they're homegrown, like you know, you hook it up to a discharge on the pumper, and it's got a little shower head on it. You know, and they can come under there. So it's important to get the heavy stuff off right away.
And like you said, it's the heavy stuff, right? And that doing that preliminary exposure reduction can get rid of like 85%. The wet stuff. If you're doing dry, if you just brush it off, it only gets like 25% off. So do the spray, do the hose spray that helps get like 85% of that contaminants that are on you. And then also before you leave, as soon as you can, wipe that soot off. Get that soot off your neck, your jaw, your throat. Get it off your underarms and your hands. If you can get some wipes, right? The baby wipe stuff. And again, be careful with the baby wipes because they have moisturizers in them, which like to clog up your pores. But there's definitely some fire service wipes out there. And there's other wipes that you can get to wipe that stuff off, right? Get that crap off of you as soon as you can. And then also, there's some things you can do, like I said, back at the firehouse. When you get back to the firehouse, send your gear out, get it out, get your fresh set, get your clean set, put it on the rig, right, and be ready because we have to reduce that exposure because it's really happening. It's really affecting people out there. The IAFF recently said that 74% of the career line of duty deaths in 2022 were due to cancer. 74%. Again, we had that scare, and it seems like we're doing a whole lot better with heart attack issues. It was over 50% before, right? That's come down. Now cancer is definitely by far taking more and more of our friends and impacting. If it's not taking them right, it's impacting a lot of people that we know, and we have to do something about it.
One thing there, Tone, is we call it relocating. I know down in DC we call it what transferred it when we transferred from one company to another. When we come back, how many times we have a big sofa in my office on the other side of the bookshelf. You can watch a little football on Sunday or whatever in between runs. And, the relocating boss will always be in there, relaxing when we get back at 4 a.m. And I come in the office and I just look at him. I'll be like, hey, we were first due. I said, I got to jump in the shower. You gotta take that shower. And, that company that's relocated, transferred there, they have to understand, hey, we're all the same firefighters on this job. And it's important for these guys and girls to get cleaned up after a job, shower, get fresh clothes on. Don't, I wrote an article a little while back that, I was guilty of, we worked 24s there. We were leave at 6 a.m. If we caught a job at 5 when you were at squad 2, right? Or 4 o'clock, you came back, that's 4:30. Let me just lay down until 6 till my relief gets in. I've been up all night. I'm going to throw the sheets in the washing machine. I'd lay there in my dirty clothes. I'm not going to take a shower now. I want an hour nap, which was probably the stupidest thing to do, shower. Because, what you said before, you smell your watch. Right now, you catch a job, you shower. Next day, it's raining out. And all of a sudden, you touch your hair, or you lay down your pillow, and you still smell the smoke coming out of your hair follicles. You know what I'm saying? So try to get a shower.
I remember being in the shower with my wife, and I'm like, "Smell that?
Yeah,
that's Trinidad."
I got nervous when you said you were in the shower with your wife. I wasn't sure where we were going with that one.
So. Hey, come on. All right, so will you put the slides back up? So that every Mayday Monday gives you some kind of a skill drill. That's the skill drill for this month is to set up that decon area or that preliminary exposure reduction area. Get out there and practice it. See what kind of tools, what kind of stuff you have to be able to make this thing and get it together pretty quick. Practice this thing. So work with slackening or loosening up your SCBA strap so you can get the brush behind there. Practice that thing so you can get this done because it's only going to benefit you, right? Again, another one of these things that will make an impact and help you to reduce your exposure to a lot of these cancer-causing things. Again, there's sometimes some of the things we can't reduce the exposure, but these we can. We can get that crap out, get that crap off so that when we go back to the firehouse, we can, put that away in a bag and go get our clean gear when we get back. So practice this thing this month so we're ready and we know what we're doing.
I don't know if you've seen that Pasco County. Tony Perez is the chief down there. And now they have, it almost looks like the old hazmat unit at DC, but they have these 2 units now that come to the fire and you spray off and this and that, and then you go in and you get the new set of gear right there, and they package your old gear and they take it right to the laundry, which is, to me, it's, when I say forward thinking, hey, at least they're seeing. Let's see what the results are,
Yeah.
But hey, I hand it to them. They're forward thinking and trying to reduce this cancer.
No, and I think that was something, again, part of our culture, right? For years, we had that one set of gear we loved, and I'm not sending this one off, right? I'm not sending this one off because it won't come back, and that's tough. We have to get past that. If they bought you 2 sets of gear, there's a reason why they got 2 sets of gear. One of them's not just supposed to be, sitting in your locker. Rotate that stuff and do that. I remember again that you walk around with this dirty set of turnouts, and or you'd be in. I remember going into an elevator with civilians. They'd be like, "Where's the fire?" And just because your gear smelled like that stuff, and that's not cool anymore. There's no need for it, right? And
Yeah,
there's other ways to show your saltiness in the fire service.
you just said that. What about when you have that terrible food on the stove? You go home and you come back the next 24, you put your coat on and you still smell that pot. I mean,
Yeah.
we all know that food on the stove. Stop wearing your hood. Don't put your hood up like we're robbing a stagecoach. Go on air. It's free. We carry extra bottles on the rig, right? Even the food on the stove.
So, I'd like to typically I ask the guests that come on and to give us 2 or 3 things that they really want people to take away. And if you want to, want it to be from your Mayday, get something from your Mayday, and then of course something from your journey, your cancer journey here that's impacted you, and maybe you could pass on something to others that might be listening.
Yeah, well, let's start because it's Mayday Monday. I hit on that one point about practicing, giving a Mayday, with your gloves on. Try to do it. It's very important that we try to find that button on our handy talkie up top. Find that, feel it. It bumps the wattage up. It's very important. You could be down in a subway. You could be, deep in a building in a Home Depot in the rear. You just never know with all the cell phone stuff and all this other equipment going on in the airwaves. So let's bump that wattage up. As far as cancer, I definitely would say, one, to text somebody. You don't have to call, just that simple text, checking on somebody. Boy, I tell you what, the support of the brother and sisterhood when you're sick, we have to keep that going. Talking to you on the phone the other day, if I could make a point to all fire departments out there, when we look out for each other, the FDNY has an unbelievable family assistant unit, and we have a unit that firefighter transport, where years ago firefighters knew enough. We had people in the burn center, we had people ill, right? Why should you use your car to drive the wife back and forth to the burn center? So we purchased vehicles, and light duty firefighters or volunteers drive, like myself, for 33 days. I had a firefighter every day pick me up in a vehicle and take me to radiation. And that just took the headaches out of, who's going to drive me today? Who can work tomorrow? This firefighter was assigned to me. So, if your organization is looking into supporting more people that are ill, cancer, burn, somebody's in the hospital, it might be something you think about as a fundraiser, and buy a vehicle and use it for that. So, I mean, that's my thing on cancer, other than try to wear your mask. And believe me, I mean, Tony, you're halfway through now. I had the surgery last July, and 6 months ago, I'm still down. I just lost another 10 pounds, and it's an ugly, unforgiving road. And if you can wear that mask, wear it. Like you, Tom, 38 years on a job. I thought I was going to walk out of the firehouse waving, the bagpipes playing, see you later, my last night. And I left, went home, didn't have a voice the next day, chronic laryngitis, something was wrong, spitting up a little blood, this and that. And next thing you know, I'm in the cancer ward, So if I could tell the young firefighters, the air is free. It's okay to change bottles. The salty guy with the cigar in his mouth, let him be. But, not being able to taste, not being able to eat right, it's just not a way of life. You know, I'm impacted now for how long, who knows? And if I can get anybody to not have to experience what you and I are going through, you know. And luckily, we didn't show them our scars or our pictures of all the other crap. Huh? We didn't want to scare them. So that's about it. I don't know how impactful that is, but that's what I have to say.
Good stuff. It is humbling to be able to take some words of wisdom, not only from fighting fires, get good advice, and now get great support from you from this same battle that we're fighting. So, Mark, can you bring up one last slide? I'd like to also call everybody's attention to the National Firefighter Registry for Cancer. The NIOSH and CDC put this together, and everybody, not even if you haven't been impacted with cancer, you should go to this thing and register. Again, it's going to help with the research for all of us that are still here, and you guys that are still here for years to come. It's going to help with that research and finding exactly what's going on, what's causing this stuff, how we survive it, how we battle these things. So please, I know they're looking to eventually have like 200,000 firefighters that are on the registry, and they need a lot more participation. So get on this thing. It's just, again, it's just a place for us to go. Those of us that have been impacted, we're going to share, what we've gone through, and those that haven't been impacted, it's kind of gives us that wide range of firefighters out there that will help to be able to drill down on research and give us the stuff that we need going forward. So please, please, please check that out. Again, it's been a while since we had a Mayday Monday. This one is hopefully pretty important to us, and I really appreciate Mike coming on. It's good to see you. It's good to see that your singing voice is coming around. You look good tan, and hopefully, we'll get past this in this stage of your life, and you can go sail off and enjoy retirement. For all of you that came to watch, I really appreciate you tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you next month for another Mayday Monday for the July 2024. Thank you.
Take care. Stay safe.